It's time for another small SUV comparison test. If you've watched my other videos, you'll know that this is one of the busiest sections of the market, and choosing your compact hire rider can be difficult. We get it. But we're here to help. We've got 4 petrol-powered, front-wheel drive, automatic SUVs, all around the same size and the same price. We want to help you choose which one is right for you. Now, let's take a look at our contenders in a bit more detail. The new kid on the block is the Kia Seltos, which arrived in Australia in 2019 with more than just a strong 7-year warranty. Our version is the Sport model with the safety pack. The Toyota CHR has been updated recently with a new media screen and a mild facelift, adding some extra desire. There's also a hybrid variant now, but it was too expensive for this test, so we've got the petrol base model. Another apparently new model is the Mitsubishi ASX, which has been facelifted and tweaked, but is essentially the same car that launched here almost 10 years ago. We've got the LS model. And also here is the Nissan Qashqai, which is due for an update of its own later in 2020, and it still looks pretty modern despite having launched way back in 2014. Our Qashqai is the ST Plus. We know we're going to see comments like, Honda HR-V wins, Mazda CX-3 is the best, and Hyundai Kona is king. But we've assembled these 4 particular models based on their size and their price, so keep that in mind before you go hitting us up in the comments section below. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, and share this video with your friends or someone you know who might be looking for a small SUV. The pricing for each of these models is pretty close. In fact, it's within $1,800, which was what we aimed for in this test. Now you'll see that the ASX is cheapest, followed by the Seltos, the CHR, and then the Qashqai. But the prices you see here are before on-road costs. It's the manufacturer list price. We've also included the drive-away prices here, so you can get an idea of what each of these different manufacturers is listing their cars for in terms of promotional pricing. That changes things a bit. But as we all know, if you shop around at CarsGuide or Auto Trader, you could find even better drive-away deals on each of these models. Read the full written review at the CarsGuide site for a comprehensive breakdown on equipment levels across these models. All 4 of these high riders has a petrol engine, a CVT automatic transmission, and front-wheel drive. 3 of them have 2-litre engines, leaving the CHR as the only one with a downsized turbocharged engine. It's powered by a pint-sized 1.2-litre turbo and pays the price for power, but its torque is pretty competitive. How does that translate to how they drive? Well, let's get to it. For this test, we took all 3 of these models out for an urban driving loop, including speed humps and roundabouts, as well as highway kilometres and winding roads. It wasn't just me testing these 4 vehicles by myself though, although most people might spend most of the time just by themselves in these sorts of cars. I had someone in the front seat with me and also someone in the back finding out what it was like as an overall experience, and here's what we found. I've come to the realisation there are a lot of people who don't really care how their car drives. Those people tend to drive cars like the ASX. In other words, the ASX doesn't drive great. It has clumsy suspension that's stumbled over big or small bumps, and steering that's inconsistent and fidgety. It was the only one of these models that exhibited steering wheel kickback over mid-corner bumps. Its engine and CVT get you away from a standing start okay, but mid-range acceleration isn't its forte. It felt sluggish and slow to respond at times, lacking refinement across the board when it came to driving. The Qashqai gets the job done on the road, but it's certainly not the sort of car that you get out of and think, wow, that was fun. It has a more refined powertrain than the ASX, even though it's sluggish from a standstill. It builds pace reasonably once you hit about 20 km an hour or higher. It was considerably quieter than the ASX when accelerating too. Its steering was generally light but lacked consistency. Depending how fast you were going, you could be left second guessing how much you needed to turn the wheel. The suspension lacked composure too. It almost felt like there was too much air in the tyres, with a wooden nature to the ride over bumps at lower speeds. It was also pretty restless at higher speeds too. There was a big gap between the Qashqai and the Seltos, which was considerably better to drive in all aspects. It instantly felt more refined, quieter and more responsive, with the suspension offering up a ride that was more composed and controlled, though it could be a little firm at lower speeds, but not to the point of being annoying or uncomfortable. The steering lacks consistency to its weighting, feeling too heavy at higher speeds, but delightfully light at parking pace. But it was the powertrain that impressed us most with the Kia, with its engine and CVT proving adequately powerful and supremely refined in this company. It was a considerably more enjoyable drive than the Mitsubishi and the Nissan, but it wasn't the best of these four when it came to driving manners. In this test, our winner for driving enjoyment is the Toyota CHR. Not just because it has a turbocharged engine, although that is quite a big part of why it was our pick. Even though it's got the smallest power outputs of this bunch, it does pull pretty hard for a little SUV. Because it's got that turbocharged 1.2 litre engine, and all the other cars here have regular 2 litre petrol engines, this car does feel like it's just got a little bit more mid-range oomph. And even though it's got a CVT transmission, it gets away from the line pretty quickly. And it's not a whinging transmission either. Some of the other cars in this test are pretty vocal when it comes to the transmission just sort of whirring in the background, but not this one. It's really hushed, really refined, and really nice to drive in that regard. Admittedly, it isn't fast. It does get away pretty well, but it's not a speed machine, although none of these SUVs are. The other things we really appreciate about the CHR are that it's got really natural, sweet steering, in that when you're around town, it's light and it feels nimble through corners, and at higher speeds, if you're in a twisty section of road, it's the most grippy and most reassuring feeling of these four SUVs. It just feels more like a hatchback than an SUV, funnily enough. The ride comfort is another positive attribute of the CHR. It feels mostly very comfortable, although you do notice that it does have a bit of a firm edge to it. It's never to the point that it feels uncomfortable over bumpy sections of road, but it's something that some people might just wish they didn't have in their lives. I don't mind it. I think it feels really nicely controlled and it sits itself on the road surface really well. There are some elements that maybe could be better. There's quite a bit of road noise over coarse chip surfaces and a little bit of wind noise to contend with as well. But around town, it's a comfortable and competent little SUV. If you do spend a lot of time around town, you might find that your over-shoulder vision, when you glance back, isn't as good as it could be because of that big door pillar at the back. Now, there is blind spot monitoring to counteract that, but it's something to be mindful of. Over our testing, we kept a tally of the fuel consumption for each of these models. And here you'll see the official combined cycle fuel use. That's what the manufacturer claims each of these models should use. And here is what we saw when we took the fuel consumption at the fuel pump. You can make up your own mind. We'll give you a sec just to let it all settle in. This is an Australian 50-cent piece. It's pretty small, right? Well, this coin is actually bigger than the difference that splits these four SUVs. That's right, just 29 millimeters splits these four models. Obviously, they're all quite different when it comes to their design, but they're all 5-seaters. They've all got 5 doors, and we might see a bit of a difference when it comes to interior practicality. Let's take a look. These are compact SUVs, and boot space might not be your #1 priority if you're buying a car of this size. They're all pretty close on size, and when it comes to boot capacity, it's pretty tight as well. But we've got the CarsGuide luggage and the CarsGuide pram to figure out where these four stand when it comes to boot space. It's pretty tight between these four SUVs for boot space, and that might matter to you a lot, or it may matter very little. Wondering about spare wheels? There's a space saver spare in all but the Kia, which gets a full-size alloy spare. But what about the rest of their interiors? Let's go through each of them in a bit more detail. While the exterior of the ASX has seen some pretty dramatic changes, the interior, not so much. Yeah, it does have a new media screen, which is bigger than in the previous version, and it gets Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but this spec, the LS, doesn't get sat-nav, and it's all just a little bit simple looking. The rest of the cabin design is pretty ancient. It looks very familiar. If you've driven an ASX from, say, 2014, this isn't going to feel overly different to you. It's not terrible, it's just not terrific. It does have a few elements that some of the other cars, well, two of the other cars miss out on at least. You've got illuminated vanity mirrors, because apparently that matters, and also an auto-dimming rear view mirror. Otherwise, up here, there's not a lot to talk about. In the back seats of each of these cars, you'll see me sat behind my own driving position. So I'm 6 foot tall, and this seat is set for me. You're going to see that consistently. Now, let's talk about the ASX, and legroom in here is actually the worst of these four. It's still adequate. I've got enough knee room in front of me to be comfortable for a while. I've got plenty of foot room and decent headroom as well. Now, the ASX is the only one of these four with a flip down armrest and cup holders. But there are no door pockets at all. So you need to use that for your bottles if you've got bottles. Otherwise, it's fairly plain back here. The seat is quite upright and it's not very comfortable. And a few of our passengers on this test have questioned why you need this little label to be a permanent fixture on the back of the seat. It's just cheap looking. The interior of the Nissan Qashqai is mostly pretty nice. It doesn't set any standards in terms of its design or making you feel special, but it is mostly inoffensive, apart from this media screen, which is old and looks old too. It's not very easy to use, the sound system isn't very good, and there's only one USB port in this car. It's in here, and it doesn't have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto at this point in time. There's decent storage, you've got good cup holders here, there's decent bottle holders in the doors, and generally the layout is mostly pretty good, and I really like this flat bottom sporty steering wheel. The space in the back seat of the Nissan Qashqai is actually a little bit more comfortable than the ASX. The seat is a little bit more supportive and more reclined, and I've got a touch more knee room as well. About the same amount of toe room and about the same amount of headroom. So if you're a taller occupant, remember this seat's set for me, 6 foot tall, it's pretty comfortable back here. There's not a lot to talk about otherwise. You do get dual map pockets, which I don't think any of the other ones here get. There's bottle holders in the doors, but there's no center armrest. And I should have mentioned it in the ASX, but all of these models have dual ISOFIX child seat points and 3 top tether points as well. There are some elements of the Kia Seltos' cabin which are terrific, and there's some which we really don't like. Let's start with the good stuff. It's got this great media screen. It's the biggest of this bunch. It's very clear, very crisp, very easy to use. It's got your smartphone mirroring tech, and the rear view camera system is quite good as well. Then there's some other elements. It's got single zone climate control and everything's laid out very logically. The steering wheel's nice in the hand, and you've got good instrument display in front of you as well. Now let's talk about some of the things we don't like. There's lots of hard plastic, lots of evidence of cost cutting. So this is a nice texture, but it's hard. That's hard as well. There's also hard elbow pads. That's not comfortable if you're spending a few hours on the road, and the door handles feel really cheap, and it's an unfinished plastic underneath, which isn't pleasant. I reckon they could have done a better job if they'd forgotten about some of this nice design plastic over the speakers and spent a bit more money making it more comfortable rather than maybe more snazzy. Now, backseat space in the Kia Seltos is very good. I've got more knee room here than in the other SUVs in this test. I've got good toe room, good headroom, and the width across the cabin is good as well. The seat is nice and comfortable, and it's a nice fabric too. And apart from that, you've got bottle holders in the doors and speaker covers with that funky design, but there's not much else to talk about. There's hard plastics on the backs of the front seats. There's no map pockets, no vents. None of them have vents in this test, and there's no center armrest with cup holders. So it's a bit bare back here. And again, you've still got hard plastic on the elbow pads, which isn't great. The cabin of the CHR is definitely the most interesting, the most style-focused of these four SUVs, but also it lacks a bit of the smarts that you find in some of the other competitors here. The bottle holders or cup holders, there's one here and there's one down here, not next to each other like most of the other cars in this test, and that means that putting your wallet or your phone somewhere safe can be a bit of an issue. There is a storage section down under the dash for your phone, but you might find that it'll fall out into the footwell, which isn't very safe. We do like that there's now Apple CarPlay and Android Auto finally added to the CHR, and this media system is a lot better than the previous generation version. And the interesting elements of this cabin, well, there's plenty of them. Don't love that the dashboard sort of juts out into the passenger space here, but we do love the materials that have been used. They all feel really nice, including this section of, I don't know what that is. It's almost like checker plate on the doors, and they've managed to get soft elbow pads as well as having interesting plastics. So maybe the Kia engineers should pay attention to that. The seats are the most comfortable of these four, the sportiest of these four as well. And there's also this great embossing in the headlining, which is black. All the other ones have grey headlining. It all makes it very interesting in here. What about the back seat? If things are interesting in the front of the CHR, in the back, it's pretty confusing, and that comes down to this. That window is tiny, about the size of an A4 sheet of paper, which isn't big enough to see out of, especially if you're little and sit low in the seat. In fact, it might make you feel car sick. Even for someone my age and my size, I don't like it. I find it really claustrophobic and not very comfortable as a place to be, in terms of the space, that is, because the comfort of the seat is actually really good. It's quite squishy and it's nicely sculpted. But otherwise, the way the Toyota designers have managed to flow this nice material into the back is quite convincing. There are only cup holders and bottle holders, or bottle holders, in the doors. There's no center armrest and there's no map pockets. So it's kind of okay if you just need a comfy seat, but otherwise it's not very pleasant back here. Whether you're choosing a small SUV like this as an urban runaround or as your family hauler full time, safety is a vital consideration. And we've got all the information you need to know about each of these vehicles, but you need to note first that the Kia Seltos we have has a $1,000 safety pack option fitted to it, and it's an investment we thoroughly recommend you make if you end up choosing the Kia for yourself. Now, here's all the info you need to know. All four of these models have the maximum 5-star NCAP crash test rating, but some achieved the top score under stricter criteria. 2019's test regime was the strictest to date. In terms of safety gear, all of them have a level of auto emergency braking, but the Qashqai doesn't have pedestrian or cyclist detection. The ASX also misses out on cyclist warnings. All have lane departure warning, and 3 have lane keeping assist, which will help hold you in your spot. The ASX and CHR have blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert, and the Toyota really needs it because of its poor visibility. All of them have a reversing camera, but the Nissan has a surround view camera. And the airbag count is close. There are a few other little considerations you can read all about in the full review at the CarsGuide site. This compact SUV comparison was a pretty close contest. Well, for the top two it was anyway. The Mitsubishi ASX LS was not one of those top two. While it does have this fresh new look, it just isn't fresh to drive. It's let down by a lack of refinement, and the interior is pretty bland as well. The Nissan Qashqai ST Plus also fell short in this test. It's lacking refinement too, and the interior, well, the media system really lets it down. When it comes to the top two, it was much closer. The Toyota CHR, even as a base model, is a very impressive car, although you might find that the back seat is a little bit claustrophobic and the boot is too small for your needs. That might matter to you, or it might not. You might just be on your own or in a couple without kids, and this car could well appeal to you on that front. But our winner, because it's the most sensible option of this quartet, is the Kia Seltos Sport with the safety pack. It's the most impressive when it comes to living up to that small SUV mindset. It has practicality and it's decent to drive as well. Plus it's got the best warranty of these 4 SUVs. Now, you might disagree with that. This might be the model you choose with your head, that might be the model you choose with your heart. Well, you can let us know what you think in the comments section below. And also, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget, hit subscribe, hit like, share it with your friends, and stay tuned for more great content and hit that bell notification icon so you can stay up to date.